Hello, this is psychologist Yulia Latunenko, and today I want to discuss with you the topic: should children take care of their parents in old age? If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. Don't forget to like this video or dislike it if you didn't enjoy it. And write your comments. What do you think, should children take care of their parents? If you had asked this question 30 years ago, it probably would have caused a lot of outrage on the internet, especially from older people. After all, how could you not take care of your parents in their old age? How could you not even bring a simple glass of water? We gave birth to you. We took care of you. We lost sleep at night. We did everything for you. We denied ourselves everything just to gift you and buy you everything. We devoted our entire lives to you. But now we understand that this kind of parental attitude is narcissistic. And this kind of parental attitude tries to use the child for their own purposes as a caretaker, as a substitute for a father or mother, as support in old age. That is, many parents believe that their children should take care of them in old age and moreover should give them attention, call them every day, sometimes even several times a day, and obey them even as grown adults. In other words, children supposedly owe all of this to their parents for life. Many parents in the past allowed themselves, when their children were small, to use physical abuse, punishment, threats, intimidation, manipulation, criticism, and condemnation. They destroyed their children's self-esteem. They did not respect the boundaries or individuality of their child. They did not see a person in the child at all. They allowed themselves to lash out aggressively at a small child, to take out their frustrations on the child, to slap them, to accuse them, to constantly criticize, and to have excessively high expectations. And such parents are usually dissatisfied with their children, because when they grow old, they become good and expect their children to treat them differently, not the way they taught by their own example, not the way they themselves demonstrated through their action. For some reason, parents think that despite all this, their children should love them. And precisely in order to receive this support from their children in old age, that proverbial glass of water, such parents tie their child to them with an umbilical cord of guilt. In other words, from an early age, they instill in the child the belief that everything is their fault. If the mother feels unwell, it's the child's fault. If the mother is upset, it's the child's fault. If the mother is dissatisfied, it's the child's fault. Moreover, such parents may verbally declare that they love their child. But in reality, this kind of attitude toward the child is very far from love. Rather, it resembles using the child for their own purposes. Such parents are very pleased when the child is frightened, blamed, and tries to be very convenient. These parents seriously cripple their child's future. And then they are offended that the child doesn't want to communicate, doesn't visit, and doesn't call as often as the parents would like. They ask their children, "Why don't you pay attention to me? Why don't you listen to my advice? Why don't you let me into your life? Why don't you tell me the details about your life?" But everyone knows the saying, you reap what you sow. If you have sown love and respect in your child's heart, you will receive genuine love and respect in your old age. Your child's help and attention will not be forced in any way whatsoever, and will not be driven or compelled by a desire to avoid feeling guilty towards you in any of their actions. Because children usually do all this unwillingly, as they do not feel a real, genuine, emotional connection with their parents, since in childhood you did not build a sincere emotional bond with your children. So if your child does not want to communicate with you, avoids calls, does not answer your calls and messages, and you see that your child prefers more distant communication with you with longer pauses, this means only one thing, that in the process of raising the child, some traumas were inflicted on the child and certain mistakes were made in upbringing, in the attitude of the parent, the father, towards the child. Of course, we all know that it is impossible to raise a child perfectly. There are no perfect parents. But we all also understand that it is possible to minimize a child's psychological traumas if you work through your own childhood traumas, if you come to terms with your childhood traumas and change your attitude towards your child. Of course, among you, there are many people who are already thinking about what your child's attitude towards you will be when you are old. And if you had your own childhood traumas, if you don't know what love and respect towards you feel like, if that's how your parents treated you, if they abused you physically or psychologically, then of course you won't be able to implement a different parenting model than the one that your parents used with you. How can you perhaps raise your own children differently if you yourself were once truly broken psychologically by your parents in your own life? Even if you read a lot of books about parenting, about working through childhood psychological traumas, even if you watch a lot of psychologists' videos on YouTube, all of that still won't help you fully work through your own childhood traumas. There will still be triggers that will cause you to slip back into the same patterns that are familiar to you from childhood. And we know that many parents promise themselves, no, I will never be like my parents. And then, oh God, oh horror, I'm doing exactly the same things that my parents once did to me. So what should you do to avoid repeating that negative parenting experience with your own child? You need to walk through your childhood traumas, and you should do this with another specially trained person, because you were traumatized by another person. That is, you can also heal with the help of another person. Not through books, not through YouTube, but with another person who is specially trained to help specifically with childhood traumas. To be good enough parents, you need to manage your own childhood traumas, not allowing those traumas to control your behavior. And then in old age, you will receive what you deserve, love and respect from your child. Sincere love, not love given out of guilt. It's much more pleasant to receive genuine attention rather than the kind you instilled in childhood through guilt. After all, your child owes you nothing. It was you who brought them into this world. It was your choice and your responsibility to give your child not only material benefits, but also genuine love, respect for their individuality, and interest in their feelings and needs. To give your child sincere parental support and to give them life as a gift, not as a debt. If you have already traumatized your child, then of course you cannot expect genuine support from your child in your old age. If you have, done a great job instilling a sense of guilt in your child, then naturally, under the pressure of this feeling, the child will do things for you just to rid themselves of the guilt they feel towards you. But will your child be happy constantly having to choose between themselves and you? The only thing that elderly parents in our country who have traumatized their children can count on is, by law, financial support when you become incapacitated. That, of course, your child is obligated to provide you. But it often happens that children whose self-esteem is destroyed, children who lack confidence because of childhood traumas, cannot be successful enough and cannot have enough money to share it with you. In other words, this is the result of your upbringing invisible, yet deeply felt outcome for both sides, for the child as well as for you. But no law in any country forces a child to communicate with their parents. So parents who take the position that their children owe them very often, even when the child becomes an adult, continue to violate the child's boundaries, display persecutory behavior, and manipulate feelings of guilt, forcing the child to pay attention to them, in other words, trying to insert themselves into the child's life as a son or daughter. But it was you who gave birth to the child, not the child who gave birth to you. And now, as I promised, I will tell you what needs to be done. And the first 5 points are for parents who still have young children, children who are dependent on you and have not yet reached adulthood. So the first thing you need to do is to increase your own awareness, especially to be conscious of your emotions. The second thing you need to do, as I already mentioned, is to heal your childhood traumas, not through YouTube or books, but with a specially trained professional. This can be individual therapy or group therapy. The third thing I suggest doing: respect the individuality of your child. Support your child's healthy self-esteem and recognize the potential in your child which you should help them develop. The fourth thing you need to do is to understand and distinguish what you are doing in the interests of your child and what you are doing in your own interest. Because most of parents' demands are actually dictated by the desire for children to be convenient, so that things are easier for the parents. So analyze your demands on your children. What are they? What is their motivation? Is it in the child's best interest or is it in your own interest? And the fifth point: stop fighting with your child. Become the ideal role model for your child, the kind of person they will look up to as a standard. In other words, parents raise their children only by their own example. What should parents do if their children are already adults? Don't cling to your children like parasites. Think in advance about how you can rely on your own material and psychological resources in old age. Do not violate your children's boundaries and do not bother them with your calls and demands. Secondly, you should take care of your own health so as not to create major problems for your children later on. If you have been damaging your health for a long time, you need to understand that you are creating a future problem for your own children, whom you have accustomed to feeling guilty and responsible for you, and who will be forced to deal with these health issues. After all, you yourself need to think about how to preserve your youth and health for as long as possible. And to do this, you need to learn to take care of yourself first and foremost. You need to get involved in sports, eat healthily, and maintain your health at a high and sufficiently good level. Third, do not revolve your entire sense of purpose around your child. It is a heavy burden for a child to bear the responsibility for you, for your health. It shouldn't be this way, because you are the parent to your child, not the other way around. You need to find your own interests to fill your life with hobbies and engaging activities. By the way, I often hear from my clients that young parents at 45 or 50 years old, when their children have grown up and it's the perfect time to think about developing their own careers, pursuing some creativity or taking up a hobby about their own interests instead, they already consider themselves old and start complaining to their child that life is over and everything is very bad. In this way, they force their child to entertain them, to take care of them, in other words. While still very young, they already act as if they have one foot in the grave. So find something in life that interests you. Your child should not be your only interest, and do not completely identify yourself with the roles of father or mother. And finally, always remember that your child owes you nothing. You brought them into this world, giving them life note, lending it to them. And of course, if you're visiting my channel for the first time, subscribe, give this video a like, and let me know what you think should children help their parents in old age. And should you do it when you have a lot of resentment and are only doing it under pressure from manipulation just to avoid feeling guilty? I'm really interested to read your comment.